The plane hummed steadily through the sky, the soft whirring of the engines blending with the low murmur of passengers chatting, reading, or dozing. Somewhere in the middle aisle, a young black woman in a simple grey hoodie slept soundly, her head leaning gently against the cold window. Her name was Ava Brooks, and she hadn't slept this peacefully in months. Her life had been a storm lately, secrets buried, memories she fought to forget, and a guilt that lingered like smoke from a fire long extinguished. She looked like any other traveler on a late-night flight from Washington, D.C. to London, ordinary, calm, anonymous. But nothing about her past was ordinary. As the plane drifted over the Atlantic, the flight attendants dimmed the cabin lights. The air was peaceful, almost too quiet, until a sudden jarring beep-beep-beep echoed from the cockpit. Passengers stirred, glancing around nervously as the intercom clicked on. The captain's voice trembled slightly as he spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, if there is anyone on board with aviation or military flight experience, please come forward immediately." Murmurs rippled through the cabin. The passengers exchanged puzzled glances. A man in a business suit whispered, "What's going on?" Someone else chuckled nervously. "Probably a joke, right?" But the tension in the captain's voice said otherwise. "This is not a drill," he added, his tone now edged with panic. "We have a serious emergency." Ava stirred in her seat, blinking away the haze of sleep. Her heart thudded as she glanced around, seeing the confusion spread like wildfire. "A fighter pilot?" someone whispered behind her. The word hit her like a ghost from her past. Fighter pilot. She hadn't heard that title in years, not since she'd walked away from the Air Force, from everything. She inhaled slowly, trying to calm the pounding in her chest. This couldn't be happening, not here. Not now, but fate didn't care about timing. Up front, the flight attendants were scrambling. A woman had fainted. The co-pilot had reportedly collapsed mid-flight. The captain was alone, struggling to keep the massive jet steady in rough turbulence. The air pressure dropped slightly, barely noticeable but enough to make Ava's instincts flare. She glanced at the window. The stars outside shimmered against the black sky, but something about their movement didn't seem right. They were off course. She knew it instantly, the way only a trained pilot could. The intercom buzzed again. "Please, if anyone has flight experience, military, commercial, anything, we need help now." Ava's hands clenched on her armrest. Her mind raced. She'd promised herself never to fly again. Not after what happened that night over the Syrian border. She could still hear the alarms, the missile warning, the desperate scream of her wingmen before the silence. It had been her first and last mission. She'd survived, but a part of her never came back down. Now, sitting thousands of feet above the ocean, with 200 strangers depending on her, Ava felt the universe testing her again. The man beside her, an older white traveler with kind eyes, noticed her tense expression. "You okay, miss?" he asked. She nodded slowly, then exhaled. "No," she whispered, "but I might have to be." Before she could talk herself out of it, Ava unbuckled her seatbelt and stood up. All eyes turned to her as she walked down the aisle. Her voice was calm, firm, and carried the quiet authority of someone who'd faced chaos before. "I'm a former fighter pilot," she said to the nearest attendant. "Take me to the cockpit." The attendant blinked, relief flooding her face. "Thank God," she breathed, ushering Ava forward. As Ava neared the cockpit door, the whispers followed her like a tide. "She's a pilot? She looks so young. Can she really fly this thing? Is she serious?" The doubt stung, but she didn't care. She'd faced worse. The captain opened the door, sweat glistening on his forehead. "You're the pilot?" he asked, his voice trembling between hope and disbelief. "Former U.S. Air Force," she replied simply. "What's the situation?" The scene inside made her stomach tighten. The co-pilot was unconscious, slumped over his controls, oxygen mask dangling uselessly. Warning lights blinked across the console. Altitude fluctuated dangerously. "We've lost engine 2, the captain said. "Autopilot's unstable, and we're getting turbulence readings we can't trace. I need another set of hands." Without hesitation, Ava slipped into the co-pilot's seat. Her movements were fluid, instinctive. Muscle memory took over. She scanned the readings, her sharp eyes darting across instruments. "We're flying too low over a pressure trough. If we don't correct soon, we'll hit crosswinds and lose lift," she said. The captain glanced at her, astonished. "How the hell do you—" "Trust me," she interrupted. "Just do as I say." The next few minutes blurred into controlled chaos. Ava's hands danced over the controls. Her mind locked in the old rhythm she thought she'd lost forever. She called out numbers, adjusted the flaps, recalibrated the navigation system manually. The plane stabilized slightly, enough for the passengers to stop screaming and start praying quietly. "Who are you?" the captain whispered. "Someone who used to do this for a living," she murmured, eyes never leaving the horizon. The turbulence hit again, harder this time. The plane jolted violently, throwing coffee cups and papers through the air. Ava gritted her teeth and pulled back on the yoke, fighting the resistance. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears, but she didn't flinch. "We're not losing this bird," she said under her breath. "Not tonight." Down below, passengers clung to their seats. A little boy cried softly in his mother's arms. A man muttered prayers. The intercom crackled, and Ava's voice came through for the first time. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Ava Brooks. I'm assisting the captain. We're experiencing technical difficulties, but we're going to get through this. Stay calm, we've got you." Her calm tone worked like magic. Fear quieted. The plane steadied. The captain gave her a look of gratitude, eyes wide with respect. "You just saved us from a nosedive," he said. Ava didn't answer. She was staring out the window. Something glimmered in the distance, faint, fast-moving lights closing in. Her blood ran cold. She knew those formations, military escort signals. "We're not alone," she said softly. The captain frowned. "What do you mean?" But before she could respond, a voice crackled through the radio, urgent and commanding. "Unidentified aircraft, this is U.S. Air Defense. You are entering restricted airspace. Identify immediately." The captain paled. "Oh God," Ava's pulse quickened. They weren't supposed to be near any restricted zone. "They think we're a threat," she realized. "If we don't respond right, they'll intercept." Her hand moved to the radio switch. "This is Flight 209, civilian passenger aircraft out of D.C. experiencing instrument failure," she said clearly. "Requesting flight corridor clearance." The voice on the other end hesitated. "Identify pilot," Ava paused. That voice, she knew it. Deep, commanding, and impossible to forget. "Major Nathan Hale," she whispered under her breath. Her former commanding officer, the man she'd once trusted, before everything went wrong. The radio buzzed again. "Who is this?" "Repeat your identification." Her throat tightened, but she forced herself to speak. "This is Lieutenant Ava Brooks," she said finally. "Former U.S. Air Force Blackbird Squadron." There was a stunned silence on the line. Then Major Hale's voice came back, quieter, shaken. "Ava, you're alive?" She exhaled slowly, staring out at the darkness ahead. "Not if we don't fix this in the next 10 minutes, she said. The plane shuddered again, engines roaring. The passengers below had no idea that they were caught between mechanical failure, restricted airspace, and a past that refused to stay buried. And as Ava gripped the controls, she knew this was more than a flight gone wrong. This was fate, coming full circle at 30,000 feet. "Everyone watching this," Ava's voice echoed like a whisper to the audience, "tell me in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're holding your breath right now, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Because this story's just beginning." The cockpit lights flickered as lightning flashed outside, streaking across the endless black sky. The storm had found them. Rain hammered against the fuselage like bullets. Ava's fingers moved with precision, toggling switches. Her voice steadied despite the chaos around her. "We're running on 1.5 engines," she said. "Number 2's gone, number 3's surging. We have to divert." The captain glanced at her radar screen, his jaw tight. "We're supposed to be clear over the Atlantic. There's nowhere to land for hundreds of miles." Ava's eyes flicked to the coordinates. "Not exactly true," she murmured. "There's an emergency airstrip on St. George's Island, old military base. Used it for NATO exercises once." The captain gave her a doubtful look. "That base shut down years ago." "Maybe," Ava replied, "but if the runway's still intact, it's our best chance." She radioed ground control again, but the storm garbled the signal. Static hissed and popped. "Flight 209 requesting emergency coordinates to St. George's Airfield," she said. "Repeat, we are diverting due to multiple system failures." Only silence answered. The captain's knuckles were white on the controls. "We're losing comms," Ava frowned, twisting the radio frequency dial. "Someone's jamming us," she said quietly. "What?" Look at the interference pattern. She pointed to the radar. The green sweep showed strange blips, too organized to be random. That's not weather. Someone's bouncing signals at us. The captain stared at her. Who would... Before he could finish, the intercom burst alive again. Major Hale's voice. Ava, what the hell are you doing on that plane? Her heart stopped for half a beat. Trying to save 200 lives, she shot back. This flight is not what you think, he said. Get it turned around, now. What are you talking about? She demanded. Classified cargo on board, he said quickly. Experimental tech. Unauthorized. You can't land it in foreign territory. Ava's jaw tightened. Are you telling me this plane was being used as a cover mission? I'm telling you, if you land in the wrong place, the wrong people will come for it, and for you. Ava stared at the console, pulse pounding in her ears. So that was why their comms were jammed. Someone out there didn't want this plane to make it home. Lightning exploded outside again, and the aircraft lurched violently to one side. The passengers screamed. The captain fought to stabilize, but the turbulence was brutal. We're in a sheer. He yelled, Hold her steady. Ava shouted back, gripping the yoke. Her arms strained, muscles burning, but she refused to give up. Everyone below is counting on us. Down in the cabin, the scene was pure panic. Oxygen masks dangled. A baby cried. A teenager prayed out loud. The old man who'd spoken to Ava earlier clutched his seat, whispering, Please, God, whoever that woman is, help her bring us down safe. Ava's voice came over the speaker again, calm but fierce. Everyone stay seated. Buckle your belts tight. We're flying through heavy turbulence, but we're still in control. She wasn't sure if that last part was true, but they needed hope more than honesty. The captain turned to her, sweat dripping down his temple. If this classified cargo is real, he said, then we're sitting on a target. Ava's mind raced. If we can't communicate, she said, we'll have to send a signal manually. She reached for the transponder panel, typing in an old distress code, one she'd memorized during her Air Force days. 7500, she murmured. Hijack code. Let's see if anyone's listening. Within moments, a red light blinked. The jamming weakened. She'd forced a ping through. Seconds later, the radar lit up again, this time with two fast-moving objects closing in. Jets, she said grimly. F-22s, the captain paled. Are they ours? They're not firing, she said, scanning the readings. Not yet. The radio crackled. Flight 209, you are ordered to change course immediately. Failure to comply will result in interception. Ava's stomach twisted. They think we've gone rogue. Then tell them who you are, the captain urged. She gritted her teeth and grabbed the mic. This is Lieutenant Ava Brooks, former Air Force Blackbird Squadron. I'm assisting the captain of Flight 209. We've lost an engine and have multiple system failures. We are not hostile. There was silence again. Then Major Hale's voice returned, quieter now, more personal. Ava, I didn't know you'd be on that flight. If what I think is true, you're in more danger than anyone on board. Her heart pounded. Then help me, she said. I can't, he replied. They're listening. The line went dead. Ava slammed the mic down. We're on our own, she said. The storm worsened. Wind howled against the plane, and thunder cracked like cannon fire. The cockpit lights dimmed, then flickered out completely. Emergency power kicked in, painting their faces in an eerie red glow. The captain's voice trembled. We've lost main navigation. Ava's jaw tightened. Then we fly blind. She reached for the manual controls, eyes narrowing. Every sense in her body locked in. Her breathing slowed. Her mind tuned out the noise, the fear, the ghosts. This was what she was made for. The plane bucked and the horizon disappeared in black clouds. Ava's voice cut through the roar. Angle 10 degrees port. Use the wind. Ride it, don't fight it. The captain obeyed, and slowly, impossibly, the plane steadied again. The turbulence lessened. For a moment there was calm. In that fragile silence, Ava's thoughts drifted. Back to her last mission, the explosion. The silence afterward. She'd sworn she'd never fly again, never trust the sky that had betrayed her. Yet here she was once more, carrying lives through a storm that wanted to tear them apart. Then, beep, 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 the console blared again. Ava's head snapped up. A new warning. She read the display. Her blood turned to ice. Fuel leak, she said. Left wing. The captain stared at her in horror. We won't make it to land. Ava's hands clenched. Yes, we will. How? We're going to glide. Through a storm? She met his eyes. You got a better idea? He hesitated, then nodded. You lead. I follow. The cockpit rattled again as the engines sputtered. Ava adjusted the throttle, cutting power to stabilize pressure. We'll descend slow, she said. Keep the nose up. Use what's left of the current. The passengers below felt the drop immediately. Gasps filled the cabin as the plane began its controlled fall through lightning and rain. Ava's voice returned over the intercom, softer this time. We're going to descend gradually. Everything's under control. I repeat, everything's under control. Her words were the only thing standing between chaos and faith. Outside, the storm raged on, but through the blackness, a faint line appeared on the radar. Land. St. George's Island. Ava's chest tightened with hope. There, she whispered. That's our way out. The captain smiled weakly. If that runway's still real. It will be, she said. It has to be. As the plane cut through the clouds, Ava's eyes glimmered with reflection and resolve. The universe was cruel, yes, but sometimes it gave second chances in the most violent ways. And this, flying blind through a death storm, with 200 souls counting on her, was hers. Everyone watching this, Ava's voice echoed faintly for the audience of her story. Wherever you are in the world, drop your location in the comments. Would you have stood up if you heard that call? And if you're still watching, like, share and subscribe. Because the landing is coming. And that landing would decide who lived and who didn't. The clouds finally broke, revealing a bruised dawn sky, streaks of grey and violet light bleeding across the horizon. The storm had weakened, but not by mercy. It was retreating, like a beast saving strength for one last strike. Ava Brooks' arms were stiff on the controls, every tendon burning, but she refused to let go. Sweat dripped from her temple as she stared ahead. The faint line of St. George's Island barely visible beneath the mist. We're almost there, she whispered. Mostly to herself, the captain nodded, voice hoarse. Runway's old military asphalt. No lights, no guidance. We'll have to eyeball it. Ava's lips curved in a grim half-smile. Wouldn't be the first time. But then the alarm screamed again. Beep, beep, beep. The red indicator lights blazed across the dashboard. Fuel pressure critical, the captain said, scanning the gauges. Left wing tanks emptying fast. Ava's voice sharpened. Shut it off, isolate the right tank. He flipped the switch, but the plane shuddered, pitching slightly to one side. The passengers screamed as coffee cups, blankets, and phones flew through the air. We're losing balance. Then hold her steady. Ava barked, pulling hard on the yoke. The aircraft groaned like a wounded animal. She could feel it. Every vibration, every gust, every subtle change in lift. It was as if the plane itself was alive, begging not to fall. The captain shouted over the noise, At this angle, we can't make the strip. Ava gritted her teeth. Then we make our own. Down below, panic had erupted again. A woman clutched her daughter, sobbing. The elderly man from earlier prayed aloud, Lord, give her strength. Someone shouted, Are we going to die? And another voice yelled, Who's flying this thing? The flight attendant, pale but composed, lifted the intercom. Everyone listen. The woman helping the captain is a trained military pilot. She's doing everything she can. Stay in your seats, hold tight, and trust her. Those words carried like a wave. Even in fear, a strange kind of faith spread through the cabin. People gripped hands. A few whispered prayers. And Ava, in the cockpit, felt that energy like invisible hands pushing her forward. Outside, through the mist, the runway appeared, faint, cracked, half swallowed by weeds and salt water. But it was there it is. The captain shouted. Ava squinted, adjusting the angle. We're coming in hot. Too much speed. Flaps? Manual. Autos fried. She reached for the lever and eased it down. The plane responded sluggishly, but it responded. The nose dipped, then leveled. The island loomed larger, its dark outline sharp against the ocean below. Gear down, she called. The captain hit the switch. A horrible grinding sound echoed. Metal on metal, only one's deploying. Then we land on one. You can't be serious, she looked at him, calm and unblinking. I've landed worse. The ocean rushed up beneath them, white caps flashing in the early light. The island was seconds away now. Ava's heart thudded, her breathing steady as stone. This was it, the moment that would define everything. In her mind she saw flashes of her past, the desert, the night sky, her wingman's last words before static swallowed them. "Fly, Ava, no matter what." She pulled back gently, letting the wind lift them just enough. The runway was dead ahead. "Brace for impact," she yelled. The plane hit hard. The landing gear screamed as one side slammed into asphalt, sparks erupting beneath the fuselage. The whole cabin jolted violently. Screams filled the air. The right wing scraped the ground, tearing chunks of concrete as the jet skidded across the tarmac. Ava fought the controls, muscles shaking, every nerve on fire. "Come on. Hold together," she growled. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the plane screeched to a stop. The world went silent, except for the soft ticking of the engines cooling and the distant sound of rain. Then, a cough, a sob, and applause. The passengers began clapping, crying, cheering all at once. The flight attendants hugged each other. The captain sat back, staring at Ava in stunned disbelief. "You just saved 200 lives," he whispered. Ava leaned back, exhausted, breathing hard. Her hands were trembling. "Not me," she said quietly. "All of us." Her eyes lifted to the horizon. The storm was clearing, the clouds breaking apart to reveal a sliver of golden sunrise. For a brief moment, there was peace. But then, a faint rumble. The captain frowned. "What now?" Ava's instincts prickled. She glanced out the window. 2 jets, F-22s, streaked low over the water, banking toward them. "They're here," she said softly. Within seconds, the radio crackled back to life. "Flight 209, remain on the ground. Do not attempt to power engines. This airfield is under military control." The captain shot her a worried look. "What do they want?" Ava didn't answer. She already knew. A convoy of dark vehicles appeared from the tree line, headlights cutting through the mist. Soldiers poured out, surrounding the plane. Among them a man stepped forward, his uniform pressed, his voice unmistakable. "Major Nathan Hale." He raised a megaphone. "Ava Brooks," he called. "Step out of the cockpit." Ava stood slowly, her jaw tight. "Guess they didn't come for a thank you." The captain looked at her, alarmed. "What's going on?" She exhaled. "That classified cargo? They don't want witnesses." "What?" "But you just saved their people." Ava's gaze hardened. "That doesn't matter to them." The soldiers were closing in. Ava looked around. No weapons, no exit, nowhere to run. And then she noticed the old emergency hatch above. Her pilot's instincts flared again. She turned to the captain. "Get everyone off the plane. Use the rear exits. Tell them to move toward the North Ridge. There's an old control tower. It'll block line of sight." He hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll buy them time." Before he could argue, she climbed the ladder and pushed open the hatch. The cold wind hit her face as she pulled herself up, standing against the rising dawn. Soldiers below raised their weapons. Hale's voice thundered through the megaphone. "Don't be stupid, Ava. Walk away from this," she shouted back. "You already took everything once." "Not again," he sighed. "You can't fight the system." She smiled faintly. "Watch me." She pulled the emergency flare from her pocket, one she'd grabbed from the cockpit, and fired it high into the sky. The blinding red streak arced upward, bursting like a signal fire. The soldiers froze, startled. Then, from the distance, another sound, the unmistakable roar of helicopter blades. Civilian rescue. Someone had seen the distress signal after all. The soldiers looked up, panicked. Hale's voice cursed through the static. "Stand down!" But it was too late. The rescuers were already landing. Within minutes, passengers were being evacuated, medics rushing to help. Ava climbed down, her strength fading, but her heart steady. As she stepped onto the runway, Major Hale approached, his eyes conflicted. "You always had to be the hero," he said bitterly. She looked at him, calm. "No, just human." He opened his mouth to reply, but before he could, the rescue team surrounded her, guiding her toward safety. As the helicopter lifted off, Ava looked down at the smoking plane. The soldiers, the wreckage, the storm clearing behind it all. She'd faced her past, faced death, and found something she thought she'd lost long ago: purpose. When she landed on the mainland hours later, reporters were already waiting. Cameras flashed, questions flew. Who was the mysterious woman who saved Flight 209? Ava just smiled faintly and walked past them, vanishing into the crowd. She didn't need fame. She didn't need thanks. Some heroes don't wear uniforms anymore. Some just wake up on a plane when the world least expects them to. And somewhere out there, a little boy watching the news whispered, "I want to be like her someday." Ava Brooks, the woman who refused to fall. Tell me in the comments, her voice echoes softly to her audience, where are you watching from? And if this story made you hold your breath, like, share, and subscribe, because sometimes courage really does fly.